If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Thumbtack presents Tile Trouble. Every single time I use my sink, I make eye contact with the uneven grout on my kitchen backsplash. The crooked corners eye me, and I'm haunted by more tiling questions than I thought possible. What kind of pro can fix a backsplash? Can I replace one cracked tile, or should I replace them all? What if I just use Thumbtack? I can hire top-rated pros, read reviews, and compare prices with a tap, all on the app. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Tuesday morning. Big show for you today. Austin Ainge is going to join us at 8:30. What are the Utah Jazz thinking as they close in on the draft? How much will Austin tell us? We'll talk with him at 8:30. Looking forward to that. We got to get to the NBA playoffs. Cleveland checking out, literally and figuratively. The Knicks, incredible run, great run. I know the East isn't very good. I'll argue it's watered down all day, but I still got to say I'm impressed anytime a team wins 11 straight playoff games. Now, maybe it does mean the rest of the conference isn't very good, but it's still 11 in a row, and that's hard to do. And by the margins they've been doing it, outrageous. Stunned that Colorado is in danger of getting swept tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Vegas struggled with Utah, but Vegas, they're up 3-0 on Colorado. It's amazing. We'll get to all of that coming up. Real Salt Lake, a 1-1 draw. They split the points in Minnesota, had the lead, gave up a goal, 90+3. They were just doing too much defending. I mean, when you're that close to winning, you want the win. But really, if you look at all the chances that were created, whose end of the field were they playing in, splitting the points is fair. They did not outplay Minnesota and deserved to win that game. They had the lead. They were close. But Minnesota scored, so 1 point. But 26 points in 14 games, third place in the West. It's been a very good start. Now it's a 7-week break. And no World Cup for Diego Luna, barring some kind of dramatic, last-second injury here. No World Cup for Diego Luna. No World Cup for Xavier Gozo. It's going to make it much harder for both guys to get sold for the big money that RSL and the Miller family want. So them missing the World Cup is sad from the fandom point of view, but if you want them to stay with the team and have a big second half of the season, I think secretly you got to be pretty excited about this. Pablo Mastroeni talking about the 1-1 result in Minnesota, and Pablo Mastroeni on the World Cup decisions. Here he is after the game.
So Zach Booth gets the goal, but he also put in a heck of a defensive shift. What did that two-way play look like for you from the bench?
Yeah, I thought he had a fantastic game. I think it's a position that he's still getting to understand, but I think there's a lot of moments defensively where he did a great job covering Dre. Excuse me. And just being in good positions. His adaptation has been really fast defensively in particular. And then obviously he's been an attacking player the majority of his life. And so his change of speed, decision-making with the ball, and then obviously the finish today was fantastic. So again, I think it's, these young guys continue to impress, even when they play in different positions. It's pretty amazing to see these guys continue to grow and, raise the level for the rest of the group.
In Dallas specifically, we talked a lot about structure. And breaking down the low block. What did you see as far as improvement goes against another low block team?
Yeah, I think today our structure was better. I think our execution was poor. All right, so the structure, you can see it. The guys are in great positions. We had a hard time holding the ball up with our front three. And anytime you do that, the game's going to be really transitional, really choppy. And we were never able to gain control with the ball. So the guys were in good positions, but it just felt like we could never hold the ball up and bring our midfield into the game, which then brings our wingbacks into the game, which allows us to pin teams higher up the field. So, again, like I told the guys today, if we're honest with ourselves, we didn't play well. We didn't execute well. But what we did do is work our tails off in spite of that. And I believe that if you're committed to that type of work when things aren't going well, oftentimes you're going to come away with a point. And so, just given our lack of execution on the day, I think it's a fair result. It had been great to come away with 3, but it had been a bit fortuitous in that regard.
Were a lot of giveaways.
A lot of giveaways.
The set pieces, though, were strong the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
How frustrating is it to give up some points right at the death?
Yeah. It's something that we've been talking about. I think this is our 8th set piece goal conceded this year. 7th. And that's just a lot, right? That's just a lot. And so it's something that we worked on this week. It's something that we've talked about as a group. And to be fair to the guys, they defended a ton of free kicks, a ton of corners, a ton of long throws. And I just think if you put yourself in those positions, at some point the ball is going to bounce a certain way. In that particular goal, I think we could have done better with the marking in the box. And so that's where that's frustrating. But I think overall the guys did a really good job against a team that just thrives with putting balls in the box with their size and causing havoc. And it's just disappointing, obviously, at the end with 3 minutes left to concede that goal.
Well, I was going to ask just because it's last game before World Cup, but that might be the answer. Just what do you want the biggest improvement to be during the break?
Yeah, I think that is obviously going to be a feature of our preseason. And again, it's like, the thing with training free kicks, it's like training PKs. They're the worst to train because there's nothing on the line. So if it goes in, it's kind of like, so how do you train the emotional context, the urgency piece? And so we've done some things where we have some money on the line. The guys have put money on the line and play money ball, and that part's good. And again, I think over 90 minutes, the guys did a really good job on that phase. My whole thing is it's about if the setup is really clear and our mentality's right, we'll just be better at set pieces. And I hope the pendulum swings the other way where we're scoring some more set pieces and not giving away as much. And then the other part too is just continuing to improve in every phase of the game. I think teams throw different looks at us, and we've got to be able to, like today, I think it was the execution piece. We were just poor. A lot of balls, simple plays, just turn the ball over. But again, it's a really, really young group. And most of those guys up front don't have a lot of experience. Right. And understanding when you can play for fouls as well, because they're so honest, they're getting smashed and they're staying on their feet. Right. And so this is all about experience. This is how you grow. But again, I'm just really proud of the first part of the season. We've established the kind of identity we want as a group in all phases of the game, and more importantly, the mentality. And we just want to improve as we come back from break.
Given that clarity of identity and then, questions about the execution of this one, while still getting a point in a crucial 6-pointer in the Western Conference, and how are you feeling about the timing of this break, and ultimately how are you going to be able to try to sustain some of that momentum when games resume in July?
Yeah. Well, the break is what it is. Those are things we can't control. And big believer in that, when you start talking about these things, you take your eye off what you can control. And so, I think it allows us to get guys like, Luna back in the fray, Morgan back in the fray, 2 guys that have been a big part of our attacking identity this year. So get those guys back. But again, I think, Aiden going out there, Lineker doing a good job when he came in, Gozo, Serge, Zach Booth. These are all guys that are just cutting their teeth. And to see them perform in a very difficult place against a really good team, I think speaks volumes of what our expectations need to continue being. And more importantly, how do we come into these places with a young group and understand how do we mature from this game and gain a bit of experience so that we can utilize that down the road.
As you look back on the last, let's say 30 hours, you mentioned Luna, you mentioned Gozo, obviously big calls coming in yesterday for the national team and you having participated in World Cups as well. How would you describe what this moment has been like and how do you feel about there?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think even Gozo, who hasn't had a cap with the national team, but has been playing extremely well. And, I think form going in the World Cup is one of the criteria that's critical. You got 3 games to get out of the group. And I just felt like he might have been a long shot, but I felt like his attributes to a 26-man roster would be really good in moments where you need to change the game. And I think he's shown his quality in front of goal. I think he's shown his ability to really threaten back line. So I just thought he had a chance, and he did as well. And then obviously Luna, I guess the part with Luna is that it's an interesting decision for me. I think that he was in 2025, the national team really leaned on him. both as a, attacking player, but also a mentality piece. And Pochettino referenced his ability to fight and I just think that in a cup where you need a difference maker, some guy who's going to come into a game where the stage will never be too big. I just thought that. So obviously, I hurt for the guys. I remember waiting for those calls and wasn't sleeping literally the weeks leading into it. But to be fair, they're both in a good way. They both know that the only way to get back there is to do well with us here in RSL. So disappointed for them, hurt for them. But I know they'll bounce back.
I think a lot of us who haven't been in the locker room at a World Cup maybe undervalue the importance of guys who aren't in the starting lineup every single week and whatever. But can you talk just a little bit about the importance of, I suppose, 23 when you played, but also 26, being able to get a team that's going to have all those personalities like you've
Yeah. I think that's and again, I think there's different ways to build the roster. I think from my experience, and especially in 2002, I was the 23rd player selected, and Bruce made it really clear to me that I'm just a rah-rah guy. I'm a hype man, but I train the right way. I challenge myself to get better every day. And as life would have it, I started the first game of that World Cup. So I think that everyone that's going is obviously a really important player on their club team, or the majority of the guys anyways. And I think if you don't get a good result in one of the games, the mood can easily sour within camp. And now you have guys, that are bickering about they should have been played and this and that. And I just think that part of the roster, it's critical to have hype men, for lack of a better word, because not only are they going to be hype men, but they also have the quality to come in and change the game. And I think for me, from my experience, it's a really critical component, because for people, I hear people talking about, we're definitely getting out of the group. The World Cup is a different beast. And even when you get to the next stage, if you squeak through, then the second round game is going to be a monster. And I feel that the vibe of the group is just as important as the quality of the players. And so, but I'm sure Poach will put together a good group that'll be ready for that.
You mentioned already the mentality he brought in 2025 with Diego, and just to clarify kind of his absence from the squad today as well, and the lack of training there. What kind of conversations have you had with him as well about kind of understanding what's next for him with the club and how to?
Yeah. So to be fair, I've just sent him a note, and I just want to let it breathe a little bit. I'm sure he's getting calls from everyone. And I think I think that he did the same thing happened when it was the Olympics. And the one thing about Diego Luna is he plays with a chip on his shoulder. So I have no doubt that he'll use this moment to be a great motivator for him moving forward. Although it's not easy. And again, if I was a guy that had nothing. I wasn't, I didn't impact the national team, not even remotely close to the way Luna impacted the group last year in 2025 and the gold cup run they had. And so I can't. It'd be really difficult for me to even empathize or understand what he's going through, given the even the marketing and the advertising that has gone through with him, and so, but Diego's been a guy that has consistently overcome difficult hurdles in his career, both on the field and off the field. And again, I think he's going to be a stronger player for this, and he's got a great shot at the next one.
Pablo, you said that you wanted to see a different attitude and mentality on the road in general, but specifically versus what you saw in Dallas. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I think, again, like in the first half, the amount of times we got in behind their defense, I thought caused a lot of problems. And so that, I think, is basically how are we staging the game? What do we want the game to look like? And then we found moments where we broke lines and went forward. But I think oftentimes, DJ, even in the first half and the second half, our execution in those moments let us down, right? So we were never able to sustain the type of pressure with the ball that makes us the team that we want to be. And so it's really interesting. So that part was really good. The execution wasn't of the level to be able to grow into the game. And so, and this is football. It's so crazy. You work on one thing. And so the structure was really good. Aiden Gozo between the lines, Serge occupying. some good balls over the top or breaking lines, but it was always like whenever we set it back, we never were able to bring our wingbacks into the game fully. The goal, again, that Zach scored, we did a good job of that. There's some good link play, but we were never able to do that consistently. And so the game was very transitional and also really choppy with all the set pieces.
Is it the kind of thing that if Morgan or Diego had been out there, it might have looked really different?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yes, they're difference makers, man. That's why they're the players that they are. They would have definitely brought calm to the game. And again, just understanding, because again, Gozo's been playing as a wingback all year, and then now he's playing as a 10, but he's really a stretch guy. So we're putting a lot on Aiden to be the guy that takes the sting out of the game, who maybe drops a layer deeper to get on the ball, to then find a 10 and then move forward into the attack. And these are things that come with time. There's no doubt that, we missed Luna and Morgan, in particular on the attacking side of the game.
Was there any scenario where Luna could have been in the 20 today or the starting 11, or was it absolutely a no-go?
It was a no-go. He didn't do our extensive day, our Wednesday, which is big distances. And he didn't do it because he still had hamstring tightness. And so again, to put him into a game without having that day, it just puts him at risk. And now we're talking about, and the way we were thinking about it as well is like the national team as well. We want to make sure we put him in a good way, if he got called in. So, but it was also the right thing to do for our team, because again, if you do a hamstring, you're looking at, 4 to 8 weeks. And it doesn't do anyone any good to take a risk at this juncture of the season.
Do you think that hamstring tightness / injury played a role in him not making the team?
Oof, I'm not qualified to answer that. I'm not behind the scenes. I know you received an email letting him know that he was going to participate. But again, what I've seen in years past too, and it kind of happened to me in 2002. There's still training camp, and there's going to be some injuries. And so the most important thing is that mentally and physically he's prepared for any moment. But as far as their decision-making process, I have no idea.
That's how you made it, right? Weren't you told no originally, and then something happened, you got a second call?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that happened. We had a game in South Korea for a friendly, and to kind of see the lay of the land. And I got yanked in like 60th minute, and this guy was eating me alive. And I got called back in for the Gold Cup because Greg Berhalter went out as a center back. So I was playing center back, and we ended up winning the Gold Cup. And then after that, I was, again, just be real clear. Bruce called me and said, I'm going to the World Cup. And I said, great. And he said, you know why? And I said, well, I've been playing well as of late. He goes, no. He goes, you're a great teammate. You work your tail off, and you push everyone to be better. I'm the 23rd guy. He literally said it to me. So again, but you put yourself in contention by the way you carry yourself, the way you train, the way you do all these little things. And that's what I always try to share with the guys is someone's always watching, and you never know what little thing a certain coach desires in a certain moment. So I think it's great learning for the guys. Obviously, really difficult moment. But like I said, I think he'll bounce back and be stronger for it.
Given this 7 weeks off now, and in fact the team won't be training for a while, you give the players, I don't know how much time you're going to give the players, but you give them quite a bit of time here. Does the focus change now to the coaching staff working with the front office, analyzing who might come in and who might be going and how you might replace him? Because this is a great start, but obviously there's a chance that rosters could change dramatically, as they did a couple of years ago for RSL.
Yeah, I don't think it's about this time, DJ. We meet every week after every game, and we talk about our situation both on the field, how we want to continue to improve, but we also talk about player decisions and roster decisions. And so it's very collaborative in that regard. So nothing's going to be super shocking one way or the other. I think we could stay the course. And obviously we're talking about some additions to the group, and, different opportunities might pop up for other players elsewhere. And so I think it's just a natural break in action to where, we can assess a little bit more clearly, given that this part of the season's over. But those conversations are always happening.
Thank you, Pablo.
Yep.
Pablo, before the game starts, you'd probably be happy with the result, but maybe not in the 93rd minute, having it go that way. How do you address games like this, and how do you get a young team to kind of get over the hump and be able to kind of finish out games really consistently like this?
Yeah, I think, and if we're being honest, Brand, I don't think that we played to our standards today. And in particular, like I said earlier, our execution with the ball was really poor. And that's going to happen. And the other thing is like, the moment it's a big moment when you're playing on the road. It's not the same. Obviously, the 12th man for Minnesota, they got some really good experienced players all over the field. So it's not easy when you have 3 or 4 really young guys to overcome the nerves, overcome a couple poor touches to then be comfortable to get on the ball. That comes with experience. And so those guys are gaining a valuable lesson from this game. And the expectation is with a couple more of them, they'll continue to feel more comfortable to secure the ball a little bit better and bring our team forward so that we can attack the way we want to. So I think 1-1. I don't think we deserve 3 necessarily, but given that we conceded in the 93rd minute, it obviously stings a little bit more, especially in a phase of the game that we've been really hyper vigilant training and talking about as a group. And so that part's difficult. But again, if you have to defend that many set pieces, the ball is going to bounce a certain way. So again, I think that's really the crux of it.
And you've given up a lot of goals, as mentioned, 7 set pieces, driven balls into the box.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be an Achilles heel, a bugaboo for the team for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a tactics issue, or is it do you have the players that can make a difference there, or is it at some point it become a roster question?
No. I think, I think tonight, I don't know how many wide free kicks and fouls, and I don't know how many times they pump the ball in the box, whether it's throw-ins or, free kicks. But anytime and this is why I was talking about the execution piece, because if we're better with the ball, we're negating a lot of those opportunities, right? But if you have to defend that many of them, there's so much randomness in the game of soccer that you can't find on stats. Right. So even though we can set it on a set piece, the game is so random, and the ball is going to bounce a certain way when you're throwing it 30 yards into the box, or you're kicking balls into the box. And that's why they do it. It's not because it's necessarily a set play as much as it is you're playing for second phase actions. And tonight we got done on a second phase action. So the point is, we can continue to improve on set pieces. However, we can't give away that many set pieces. And if we're better with the ball and execute with the ball, we'll be able to now impose ourselves on our opponents in a way that we're not giving away so many set pieces. So the game is always connected. Oftentimes we like to break apart set pieces because it's really clear what you got to work on. But for me, the truth is that if you can't bring your team forward and pin your opponents in their own defensive half and let the game breathe a little bit and breathe with the ball and feel confident with the ball, then that's really the problem, because we defended 99.5% of them the right way.
And lastly, the World Cup coming up, what does the break look like for the coaching staff and the players? You give them a lot of homework and they've got assignments, and then you just kind of regroup. What does that look like for, the fans that are curious?
Yeah, no, I think, us coaches will get away for a little bit, and then, before we get away, we'll definitely start planning, as we already have, about the areas of the game that we need to continue to improve upon. The really interesting thing about these breaks, Brant, is that you expect the team to come back and start right where they left off. But the truth is, even during the season, if there's an area of focus that you want to hit on, naturally they're going to improve. But what we're going to do is basically just go through and hit all of our principles in our game model, so that there's refreshers, because there's so much nuance and detail to what we want to do. And so I think the important thing is that we have to touch on all of them, and then again really focus on those areas that have kind of let us down at this part of the season. So the guys are getting, I think, 3 weeks off. And the expectation is that, they have a program to do at home. And so how do you, take a week and relax, and then the next 2 weeks really keep the body moving so that we're not starting from scratch when we get together in June?
All right, there is Pablo Mastroeni. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more on the Stanley Cup playoffs, more on the NBA playoffs. David Locke coming up later this hour, and Austin Ainge will join us at 8:30. Stay with us, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Thumbtack presents Tile Trouble. Every single time I use my sink, I make eye contact with the uneven grout on my kitchen backsplash. The crooked corners eye me, and I'm haunted by more tiling questions than I thought possible. What kind of pro can fix a backsplash? Can I replace one cracked tile, or should I replace them all? What if I just use Thumbtack? I can hire top-rated pros, read reviews, and compare prices with a tap, all on the app. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Memorial Day sale and get 30% off paints and stains May 15th through the 28th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Well, a full weekend of playoffs, a lot going on. I am shocked that Vegas is up 3-0 in Colorado. Colorado had not only the one seed in the West, the best record in the NHL in the regular season. And this does happen. You know, teams get hot, especially goaltenders get hot. And I saw plenty of people say in advance, you know, Vegas has got a puncher's chance. Vegas has playoff experience. This could happen, but not 3-0. I mean, if Vegas wins a long series, okay, but they're going for a sweep tonight at home. This is unreal. It's crazy. Carolina's up 2-1 after getting an overtime goal to beat Montreal 3-2 last night. They're up 2-1 in the East. More predictable there. Montreal had a really good season, but Carolina's the top seed in the East, so that's a little more predictable. Very predictable in the NBA playoffs. Oklahoma City and San Antonio are tied at 2 games apiece. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get more competitive late-game drama in games 3 or 4. It's pretty clear-cut how both those games were going to go. They weren't total blowouts, but still, I think we all had a pretty good feeling as you were watching the game how it was going to unfold. It looked like the Thunder were going to win Game 3, and they did. It looked like the Spurs blew Game 4 wide open. I mean, that was Wemby hitting that half-court shot at the end. And you got to give him credit. Watching the play live, you could see him. He was 80 feet from the hoop, and he wanted the ball. He had an idea. He shoots that so easy. It's just, he's shooting 30-footers like they're free throws, man. It's just unreal. It is crazy. That place erupted. But Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City, now it gets real. We're getting down to it. The margin for error. It's the best 2 out of 3 series. The margin for error is disappearing quickly. I won't be surprised if we have a Game 7. Won't be surprised at all. We'll see. All right, we'll get to more of that game coming up. And, you know, who's healthy, right? Got to see the injury reports. Both these teams are missing guys. Let that be a lesson to the Jazz, man. You cannot build an 8-player rotation and think that's going to work for you. Too many injuries. You got to be 12, 13 deep. You can have a couple guys at the end of the roster who are, you know, young guys building and you're not counting on them, but not – 8's not going to get it done. You got to be deeper these days for sure. And then there's East. Wow, the Knicks. First off, Cleveland checked out. That was super disappointing. That was not a good effort in Game 4. Let's be honest. That was not a good effort in Game 3. I think we could run a poll question later this morning. Did Cleveland check out in Game 1, 2, 3, or 4? When they blew that lead in Game 1, it was just over. They never really pushed back after that. It was disappointing. All 3 of those games, Games 2, 3, and 4. So they got to figure that out, answer those questions. We got a question up on our Facebook page, and it's really, you know, it's Cleveland. Are they figuring out what the Jazz brass has known all along? That's basically it. And, Donovan Mitchell's good. He's second-team All-NBA. You can argue whether he's a top 10 player in the league or not, but you can't argue he's top 20. You just can't. He's a top 20 player in the NBA. You want to argue about whether he's 8 or 13 or 16 or whatever. Okay, argue away. You just yak until you run out of air. But he's just not built for the playoffs. He's too small. Teams can game plan for that. Size matters a lot, and your best player needs to be 6'6" or bigger. I know Steph Curry, and I know Isaiah Thomas, and those two are outliers. We got 50, 60, 70 years of basketball that says those guys are outliers, right? I mean, I haven't been watching basketball for 70 years because I'm not 70 years old, but I can look it up. I know about the last 50 years of basketball. I've been around for that. And you go back before that, I mean, it's just, Wilt and Bill Russell were involved in a bunch of championship teams. So I just don't think you can build a championship team around a guy that small. You might catch lightning in a bottle. And I know you're saying the Knicks, maybe Brunson will do it. Maybe he will. I personally don't believe it. We'll see. I think the Knicks will get there, and I think Brunson will do what a lot of smaller guards who are great players have done. John Stockton got beat twice. Jason Kidd got beat when he was the best player. Now, once he was paired with Dirk later in his career, he got one. Peyton, when he was leading the Sonics, didn't get it. He did have Sean Kemp. Later in his career, I think he was in Miami at the end when he got one, but he's a role player at that point. It's just hard. You can list a bunch of smaller guards. Kevin Johnson, really good player. Mark Price, really good player. Steve Nash, 2-time MVP. Maybe Nash could have done it. There was that, the hip check and the guys off the bench and all that. I mean, that was really unfortunate. That could have been their shot. It looked like it could have, would have, should have been their shot, but then the suspensions and it wasn't. So, I don't know. Brunson, it's an uphill battle. And it's an uphill battle for Mitchell. I just not buying it. You just got to have more size. You got to have more size. And then is he a good enough defensive player and all that? So anyway, we can get into all that later this morning. We'll take a break now. We got more basketball coming up. David Locke, a lot of stuff about the Jazz rebuild. We talked with him on Friday. We will get to that next. Austin Ainge at 8:30. Stay with us. DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Hey, it's your ceiling vent, so I'm dripping. Could be the rain, could be the upstairs bathroom. Yikes. You could hire the guy your neighbor recommended, but I'm pretty sure that's just his cousin. Do we know if he's licensed, or does he just own a ladder?
Listen to your home. Go with Thumbtack. Upload a photo or voice note and we'll diagnose your project and match you with the right pro for the job. Thumbtack. We know homes. Hire the right pro today.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're going to be talking hoops with Austin Ainge later this morning. What are the Jazz prioritizing? What does Austin Ainge need to add to this team? We will talk with Austin coming up at 8:30 this morning. We talked to David Locke on Friday. We'll replay that conversation. Obviously, at that point, we didn't know the Knicks were going to sweep the Cavs. I think we had an idea the Western Series might be 2-2, and sure enough it is. But it's mostly about the Jazz and how you build championship teams. Here's David Locke with PK and I on the Zone. David, good morning.
David James, Patrick Kinahan. If you're going to talk a draft board, these are two of the guys that you would put at the very top of any draft board, but similar to the way it is in the NBA draft. You would look at their talents, and you would not really know how they could utilize everything that they have at their disposal until you see them in the big time. And then they would wow you, putting skills together you never imagined and rising to levels that only you could have dreamed of when you called their name on draft night. That is David James and Patrick Kinahan.
I feel like we lose a minute of good basketball conversation every week because you got to wind up and kick this thing off with whatever you come up with, David.
Yeah, I've got 7 days, 24 hours a day for 7 days to try to come up with the next silly thing I'm going to do.
Right?
It's hard work. If you don't appreciate it, next Friday, I'll just say good morning. That's fine. If you don't appreciate the creativity to try to talk about the greatness of the two of you to whatever is the current trend of the day, no. Next week you get good morning. We'll see how you like it.
Well, you use your draft stuff. I mean, you need draft stuff for a month now. Because you often do that. Your silly thing is usually some topical peg. I was surprised you used the draft stuff so early. I thought you'd save it for June.
I can use the draft stuff for 4 more weeks. It's all anyone cares about.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's get to my mega question here. What if the answer to all these, 4 really good players at the top of the draft, the Jazz draft second, what should they do? Trade up, trade down, which player, all the questions. What if the answer to one of these questions is right in front of us? What if there is no backstory to why Peterson was hurt? He was hurt because he was hurt. Period. There's no backstory. He was hurt because he was hurt. And then you look at the way this is going to playoffs, and you're the first one who said, hey, the game has changed, and that's why there's so many injuries. We got these guys running and cutting and changing direction. It's especially hard on big guys like Embiid and Zion because they're just so big, but it's impacting the smaller guys too. And A.J. Mitchell went to UC Santa Barbara. I don't know him at all. I know people who know him. But obviously I'm watching him, and I see him grab his groin as he goes to the ground. And this is a young guy. He hasn't made a ton of money yet. He can one day the way he's going. He wants to make his mark. He's in a conference final. He's playing hard. He's having an impact in playoffs. When he grabs his groin, it's because he's hurt. There is no other story. It's because it hurt. And he'd be the 4th guy who's had a significant injury and missed significant time in just the first couple of games here, just getting started in this series. Should people worry about Peterson because of that? Period. End of story. The game is harder physically because all the running and cutting, and he's already been hurt, and this is going to be an even bigger problem.
There's a lot there.
You can handle it.
We lose 2 minutes of the basketball talk when DJ asked his first question.
I've been thinking about it all week. I tried to tighten it up. Sorry.
All right. Let me go with where I thought you were going at first.
Okay.
Like, Peterson just got hurt. He had a cramp issue. It freaked him out. He called it traumatic experience. He's got a little version of PTSD. Yeah. He's got to work through it, but he's a 6'6" guard who could score 25 a night.
Yeah.
And the answer is just right in front of us. If that's the case, then the Jazz get A.J. DeBonta. Because Darren Peterson's been the number 1 player in this draft for the entire draft until the cramp thing started.
Right.
And so if the cramp thing is really not a problem and there's not other stuff going on and everyone gets comfortable with that, then the Jazz get A.J. DeBonta with the 2nd pick of the draft. Because before Darren Peterson had any of these problems, and before they were, even after he had the problems and they were reoccurring, once they became reoccurring is when A.J. DeBonta moved to the top of the draft. And I'm not convinced from the research I've done that A.J. DeBonta changed. I just think Darren Peterson changed in people's minds. I don't think A.J. DeBonta suddenly became better than what people thought he was. You guys know better than I do, but I'm watching his stuff. And if I watch Game 10 and I watch Game 20, there's no little less space because no Saunders. But he actually got less good as the year went on, in my opinion. All of them did except for Darius Acuff. It's because you get in the conference play and you're playing teams that have seen you and they're scouted probably. But so that's the first question in there. Is if it's just an injury and they solved it, then if the second question is you're drafting in a manner that's trying to avoid injury, then I think Cameron Boozer vaults to the top.
Yeah.
Because the ground-bound 6'10", 250-pound players are not having the same tendon muscle problems. Sabonis gets hurt, but I think Sabonis was like a wrist or a thumb, right?
Yeah.
Şengün seemingly plays most of the time. Like those type of play. Paolo Banchero has had some of those problems, but most of the, he's had some oblique things. But most of those players that are kind of big and burly are playing right now. Jokic generally plays. He did have the awkward knee thing this year, but like that just happened. So, but I think third thing is the injury issue, not tanking, not any of the 23 other things we talked about all year. The injury issue is the biggest issue in the NBA. And I don't know the answer. And I'm very concerned about it. And I think it's the biggest issue the league has, the same way the NFL has had weeks in which, you are starting 17 second-string quarterbacks. And they've made rule changes. I don't know what rule changes we can make. But this is the problem. It's not load management. It's that you have to cover so much ground, and we're playing so fast. Did you see how fast the first quarter of that Oklahoma City-San Antonio game was? And they were coming off a double overtime 15-round Hagler-Hearns fight.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe it. I was watching the first quarter. I was stupefied that they were playing at that breakneck pace. I couldn't believe it. And you had coaches, I think 10 players played in the first quarter of that game. It's the most players, or 20 players played in the first quarter of the game. It's the most players played in the first quarter of a playoff game in like 10 years.
You like Boozer because he can initiate the pick and roll. Is that not a fact?
That is the most intriguing thing to me about him right now. I started a project where I'm watching the final 5 minutes of all these players' close games, because I actually think the coaches tell you what they think they can do and can't do. And John Schreier went to Carlos Boozer at the top with the ball in his hands in a pick and roll a lot. And so it seems weird, like, okay, well, the 6'9", 250-pound guy can't be the pick and roll guy. Okay, but the 6'8", 235 guy, 250 guy in LA can do it, and the 6'8", 230-pound guy in Detroit can do it. So why can't the 6'10", 250 guy in Utah do it?
He can. Will they draft him?
Well, I mean, if Cameron Boozer, boy, that's going to be hard.
Just go with Boozer.
If Cameron Boozer can initiate the pick and roll, I think might be really offensively special. Like,
and you think he can?
He's the best. Again, another research project, and this one won't take long. I just haven't done it. But I think if you look back through Sabonis' career, who's a really good pick and roll handoff big, I think Sacramento's offense has always been close to top 10. If you look back at Karl Anthony Towns, kind of a big that can spread it, can really shoot it, I think his offense has always been top 10. Now, I'm not sure Boozer's your center, but I do think if you have a big that can spread the floor 5 out and be the fulcrum of your offense, I think you have a top 10 offense automatically, maybe even a top 5 offense, and none of them can play pick and roll. This would be the first one who can do it in that manner. That gets pretty fascinating to me.
You jumped my next question. If Boozer's with a center who goes away from the rim, I just don't know that people can stop Boozer one-on-one. And I know he doesn't jump as well as most guys in the NBA, and I don't think it matters. I don't know that he reads everybody's feet and shoulders and the ball fakes and go left and right and a head fake. I just don't know that people can guard him one-on-one if he has space. They're going to need a second person.
Right. I mean, you run a pick and roll, you invert the pick and roll, so that Keontae or Ace, the 1 or 2, comes and sets the pick, and Boozer's coming off the pick, and now they're switching 1 through 4. So now you have a point guard or 2 on Boozer, and you're able to and you're spread so that there's no help coming. Yeah. He killed that guy. It's what he did all college.
Right. Yeah.
He killed that guy. Now AJ might kill that guy too, frankly.
Yeah, but that's not as surprising. I mean, AJ, as soon as you see him, you think that. But Boozer, don't underestimate him because he'll kill that guy too. He'll take him apart.
Yeah, and I think about the one I think gets interesting in Will Hardy's offense is, so you start to run the off-ball screen for Ace Bailey or even Keontae George. Somebody else has to be handling up top. We don't have a second ball handler, so this would be a little difficult if you're doing for Keontae. But, and Boozer goes and sets the pick, and they switch. Well, then Boozer just rolls that guy into the middle of the lane immediately. Like, you're just kind of playing a small pick and roll where he's now rolling a small into the lane, and then he can really score. So, I don't think he's going to have a hard time scoring. I do have I'm not going to lie. I watch him defensively, and it's like, oh, God. he's not that quick laterally. He's not getting off the ground. And frankly, nor is Cade Cunningham or Luka Doncic, right? My podcast today is comp Cade Cunningham and Cameron Boozer. It gets really interesting. It seems weird. It seems counterintuitive, but who averaged more assists in college? Boozer. And, they're not the same, but they're not Cade Cunningham, 6'8", 225, 230. So one guy, and I also wonder if Cameron might lose a little weight when he starts playing in the NBA. That's the other thought. I think he might go down. So I'm very intrigued by Cameron Boozer. Very intrigued.
Yeah, I can see why. I think he's been a very good player for a long time. Seen him play many times because a lot of his games in high school were on television, and obviously Duke is always on television. I think that the draft is just one addition that the Jazz will make, and they probably will have some more. How much do you think whoever they draft will lead to some personnel decisions that if they drafted DeBonsa, they would go this way. If they drafted Peterson, they'd go that way, and put Boozer in the mix too, as far as what they do to augment the roster?
So honestly, if you draft DeBonsa or Peterson, I think it has very little impact on your core other 5 players. If you draft Cameron Boozer, you have to be comfortable with Lowry Markkanen playing all of his minutes as a 3. And I think that might be fine. But you're now playing Boozer 30 minutes a night, Kessler 30 minutes a night, and Jaren Jackson 34 minutes a night. And that is your center power forward rotation, those 3 guys.
Yeah.
So there's no time for Lowry to slide down. So now Lowry's playing 34 minutes a night as your power forward, and Ace Bailey's probably playing the other 14 there. So now Ace Bailey's playing 24 minutes as your shooting guard. You need another shooting guard for 24 minutes, and you need another backup point guard, and you really need another ball handler badly. So your backup center, I don't think at that point you're paying Yusuf Nurkic. Your backup, your wing, your front, your 3-4-5 rotation is you just need depth there, and that frankly is probably Kyle Filipowski as your extra big in some of that circumstances, at least for another year or two, and he's priced well. And then you've got to figure out who your backup 3 is just to cover, because you need one, but they probably aren't in the rotation. And then you need 1 or 2 guards in your added to your lineup of rotation players. If you're drafting Cameron Boozer. If you're drafting Darren Peterson, then you still need that guard. But Ace Bailey is now playing 24 minutes a night as your small forward, and probably 14 minutes, 12 minutes a night as a shooting guard. And Lowry's playing 24 minutes a night as a 3, and probably 14 to 16 minutes a night as a 4. And Jaren Jackson's playing the other ones, and then you're backing up with Kessler and maybe a backup center, or you're rolling Jaren over there for a few minutes a night.
I'm very excited. Assuming the Jazz sign Kessler, I'm very excited to see what this looks like. We've never seen a Jazz team that has this kind of size and will most nights be much bigger than the opposition. We have seen skilled teams that are smaller achieve pretty well, both in the Boozer D. Will era and back in the Stockton Malone era, but they usually were giving up some size at key positions. This could be an enormous team, and I'm super intrigued. However, the one thing I have out there is where we started this with the amount of injuries in the NBA. Kessler, Jackson, and Markkanen together played 21 years in the NBA, and together they've only been able to play 70 games in a season 3 times. Now, I know those numbers are impacted by tanking. I think you add them all up, 9 of the seasons have been impacted by tanking, and 4 more have been impacted by the shortened COVID season. So this isn't a shot at their durability in the past, but nonetheless, I have very little that suggest that their bodies can endure 70 or 75 or 80 games because you want them to be healthy when you get to the playoffs because they could be top 6. Maybe they could win a playoff series in 2 rounds. And are they really going to be healthy that whole time? Because there's such a load being put on these guys, and we haven't seen them do it. And I get why we haven't seen them do it, but nonetheless, we haven't seen them do it. So I'm curious if that is something the Jazz fans should raise an eyebrow and worry about, or whether you just dismiss that with a wave of a hand.
No, I think it's real. You used to say that the average player in the NBA is going to miss 11 games. I think you probably need to start moving that to 15. And now start building your roster, assuming you're going to be missing. So this is where I actually think Isaiah Collier, Bryce sense about Cody's a little expensive, and Kyle Filipowski become very important to the Jazz. And their minute. I'm not sure I think that any of them are rotation players to start the year next year. But I'm not sure that matters because all these guys are going to be out. Like, if Flip is our 4th or 5th big, right? Let's say we draft Peterson or DeMonta, and Nurk comes back, and so you're Nurk and Kessler and Jaren and Lowry's your backup 4, and Lowry's your starting 3. Okay, they're going to all miss a bunch of games. Flip's going to play 50 games a year in the rotation.
Yeah.
Like, if they all miss, then Flip is the guy who steps in for, and that's where Flip's time last year really matters. If your guard line is Keontae, let's go with Darren, Lowry, Ace, whatever veteran guard you add to bring stability and ball handling, and Sensabaugh's kind of not in the rotation, well, anytime Ace or Lowry or the veteran misses some time, Bryce is coming in, and maybe Cody's coming in, and, Isaiah Collier's probably your 3rd point guard, and when whoever, he's coming in. And those guys are going to be able to have to work their way back into the rotation, I would guess, to prove that they've made the strides they've had to. It's a very different world for them, but where all the minutes they've been given in the last 2 years are very important.
David, we'll leave it right there for now. You're the man. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy.
Tip of the hat, by the way. I know a bunch of those guys are working really hard. Like the Jazz offseason program what Keontae did last year has leaked over, and these guys, the words I'm getting are these guys are working. Those guys they just all put out of the rotation are all working really hard to be in the rotation right now and deserve credit for that.
Thank you, David. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
There's David Locke. Remember, Austin Ainge is coming up. He'll join us live at 8:30 this morning. We'll take a break and be back. What is trending? The headlines are next.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.